with no B-pillar, the seatbelt is delivered to you. How good is that? Welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name's Simon and today I'm driving the Mercedes-Benz CLK 200 Avant-Garde Auto. Hope you enjoy the review. After a tough period for Mercedes-Benz in the 1990s, was the C209 Coupe a return to form? Let's find out. This car's been kindly lent to me by JJ on Cars, so feel free to check out his channel. I've got some great reviews on there of this car and many others, and I'll put the link in the description. Mercedes-Benz have a long record of producing some very elegant coupes. If you think about the C114, the C123 and particularly the C124 Coupe I tested on the channel last year. When the first generation car arrived in 1997, Mercedes had somewhat fallen into the doldrums in terms of quality and reliability, and later on, as we found out, corrosion protection. So this second generation car was potentially returned to form for the company after this very difficult period. There were two body styles available, the A209 and also the C209, which I'm driving here today. The convertible was actually produced by Carman on behalf of Mercedes-Benz in Osnabrück. The C209 is actually based on the W203 C-Class platform. This second generation of CLK is both longer and wider than its predecessor. In actual fact, the body is 40% stiffer. Now, the coefficient of drag was just 0.28. Now, put that in perspective. Considered a very slippery car is the Vauxhall Calibra, and that was 0.26, so only marginally better. And it's got a really attractive, really pretty coupe-shaped body. In actual fact, it's probably a step ahead of many of the opposition in terms of style, and I think possibly one of the prettier, more modern Mercedes-Benz coupes. Now, the improvements were more than styling, they were more than skin deep, and in actual fact, the vehicle benefits from a rack and pinion steering system, which is a step ahead from the recirculating ball system that many Mercedes of old, including my Mercedes 190, have actually used. And you can actually feel this in the weight of the steering. The steering's really well rated, really precise, and it feels quite weighty. A really nice steering wheel with paddle controls on the steering wheel as well. If you wish to change gear, this car is an automatic like many of them. But you do have the option of changing manually using the paddles. And also the company chose to use this as an opportunity to improve handling with a new 3-link front suspension system and actually a weight-saving aluminium rear suspension. And you can really feel that in the way the car drives and handles. In this Avant-Garde setup, the suspension is a little bit stiffer, but it's certainly not uncomfortable for sure. So let's just pause for a second and let's stop and have a look in a bit more detail about the specifications of the Avant-Garde. So the 200k Avant-Garde example I'm driving was actually priced identical to the Elegance. Hence you had a choice. Elegance was the comfort version in terms of seat, suspension and different wheel sizes, whereas this Avant-Garde that I'm driving here today was a sports version. You've got more bucket style seats, lower, firmer suspension, larger, sportier wheels, but mechanically they were actually identical. But neither version could actually be considered cheap. In fact, looking back at price lists of the day show that they were 20% more expensive than the contemporary BMW E46 320 Ci Coupe, quite an accomplished vehicle in itself. However, to be fair, the Avant-Garde trim was generous, and standard features include ABS brakes, an alarm, alloy wheels, a remote control audio, CD, climate control, driver's airbag, electric windows front and rear, headlamp washers, heated mirrors, and so on and so forth. And in actual fact, steering wheel adjustment for rake and reach also. In fact, finally, traction control and sport suspension was standard. So in overall terms, you did pay quite a lot for the vehicle, but it was well specified. So let's find out how this CLK drives on some faster roads, and let's put it through its paces. Now, there are many ways to squeeze more power from an internal combustion engine. One option, of course, is turbocharging, but in this instance, we use a compressor or a supercharger. Now, a supercharger actually allows the vehicle to have a continuous level of boost and basically force in an increased amount of air into the combustion chamber, and with it potentially forced in more fuel as well. Now, the net result of this on this particular car is a not inconsiderable 160 horsepower and a rather linear power delivery. So we're going to have the chance on some open roads to experience what that car's like and see whether it really is the sports car that it promises. In terms of controls, actually there's some Mercedes idiosyncrasies. You do have a single stalk, but unlike other Mercedes like my own 190e, the stalk's actually on the left hand side of the steering wheel, and above it is a separate stalk for the cruise control stroke speed limiter. Now, I have to say, one of the first things that strikes me getting into the car, not only is it an absolutely beautiful place to be in terms of the interior, I mean, let's not forget this car is the best part of it's 20 odd years old. So I mean, this is outstanding, really. It wouldn't be put to shame by some of the more luxurious cars of today. Yes, materials have improved, but over the last 20 years, not by the same amount over the 20 years prior to this one. So we're still on some restricted roads here, and we're going to have to take it easy for a little while. You do notice that the steering's really well weighted, and as I may mention elsewhere in the video, this is the time period when Mercedes had switched over from the old recirculating ball steering, which is a bit vague to be fair, to full rack and pinion steering, and it shows. It feels well weighted, and you can really start to feel what the car's doing. Now, although the ride quality is reasonably firm, it's not actually uncomfortable, and the roads are not necessarily the best here in certain parts or many parts of the UK, and in actual fact we don't really have too many problems. Actually, now we've got it rolling and we're coming out on some faster roads, a bit better surface, in actual fact it's pretty livable with this. Now, we've got 161 horsepower or so from the supercharged engine. I mean, the engine range goes right through to a fire-breathing AMG 5.5 litre model, something like that. Actually, this doesn't feel lacking in power. It feels quite docile. We're going to try and put our foot down in a second. You know, currently at 40 miles an hour, and just see. And yeah, I know you can maybe certainly for me that felt pretty nippy. I think mid-range, this is the benefit of having that continuous boost with the supercharger, that in actual fact the vehicle provides a really linear power delivery. It doesn't feel like the on-off of turbos. Turbos have improved a lot since the early days, but you can certainly see why the compressor is a popular choice for low capacity, in this case 2 litres or so, and but still producing 160 horsepower. Now, the vehicle does have a paddle shift, and although you can use the gear lever and knock it across into a manual mode, actually there's no point, because you can simply just blip it down or up in terms of the paddle shift right the way down. That's down to just a second approaching this roundabout. Let's just use the paddles for a minute, because I don't often drive cars with paddles to be able to use them. So we're in second, just accelerating back up, third, fourth, and then back into drive, back in full automatic mode. It's really easy to use, to be honest with you. And unlike some of the semi-automatic gearboxes I've driven in the past, thinking of some other motorized automated manuals, this is a real step ahead. You've got the best of both worlds. You've got the ability to change gear manually, or you've just got the ability to bumble around in automatic if you want. So where permissible, he says, qualifying it, you can actually reach a top speed of 142 miles an hour in this car, which I think is pretty good going. 0 to 60 is sub 10 seconds, which is, you know, not fire breathing, but really respectable in terms of keeping up with more modern traffic. But despite the power, this might well be a sweet spot in the range of the CLK second generation range, because in actual fact, fuel economy, you're going to get apparently into the late 30s, the owner's telling me about this car, and in actual fact, a combined fuel economy is 32.5 miles per gallon, which I think is not bad going, to be fair. The other thing that's important is that road fund licence, which is a real consideration here in the UK, is just £415 a year. Now, going above this, you could soon end up to paying £700 for some vehicles these days. And crucially, importantly for some people, some areas of the UK, it is ultra low emissions zone compliant. So there's no additional charges to pay, certainly within the London congestion zone, and probably within the others, I would guess, as well. So it's an important consideration. Driving a car like this is fine, but you need to be able to afford to run it. And I think with this car, you've got a chance of doing that. Now, having driven this car for a little while already, I can feel that the seats themselves are really comfortable, and no wonder. They are sports style seats, but it's actually got, believe it or not, a number of pneumatic settings to adjust the seat. That's incredible, isn't it, really, at this price point? I'll have to check whether they were options or they were standard, but they're really, really comfortable. The semi-bucket seats hold you in well. They're not too hard as sometimes German seats can be, and with the level of adjustability, I defy anybody not to get comfortable in this car. Now, it's easy to say that handling is pretty good, but actually, how does it handle? Well, to be fair, it actually corners really flat, and this is the benefit of that stiffer suspension, of course, but it is a good trade-off with the ride quality and the handling. And certainly on faster bends, you get the benefit of that much better rack and pinion steering. It's quite easy to precisely place this car on the road, and quite honestly, it's a pretty fun car to drive. To be fair, it's far more fun than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be a bit more of a boulevard cruiser, but in actual fact, that's not the case with this car. So what conclusions have we reached? Well, driving any Mercedes is a huge sense of occasion. Whilst the 3-pointed star may be missing from the bonnet now and gone due to crash safety, these coupes and the qualities that made them so exceptional have been retained. There's a depth of quality here that showed that Mercedes had got their mojo back with the second generation CLK. Whilst this one's not the fire-breathing V8 AMG monster, its 160 horsepower compression engine actually gives a great balance of power and economy, probably more relevant in 2024 than any time ever before. And the best bit, they're exceptional value for money as used vehicles, and in fact they're ultra low emissions zone compliant as well. What's not to like? So thanks again for watching me on Lot 76 Cars. I hope you've enjoyed this review of the second generation Mercedes CLK. Please like, share, subscribe, and click on notifications so to be informed about my next video. And once again, as always, thanks for watching.